Geico presents Our Town, Season 4, a 30-minute podcast produced by Best Bark Communications, a small but fierce client-centered marketing company powered by decades of experience and well-established business networks. Geico, 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance. Now, here's your host, Andy Ockershausen.
This is Our Town. This is Andy Ockershausen, and as I have the great honor to talk to a gentleman that I've admired from afar for many, many years, Chief J. Thomas Manger of Montgomery County. And the first question, Chief, is what does the J stand for?
It stands for John. I'm actually named after my dad, and
You're
very proud of that. Actually, I'm the third. So named after my father and grandfather, and I have even saddled my son with the same name.
But you were born. You went to the University of Maryland. Were you born in Maryland?
I was born in Baltimore.
In the city?
Yes, I was, and grew up in Baltimore City until I was 14. And my dad got a job with the federal government, and then that landed us in Silver Spring.
And then how did you enter? Well, I don't want to ask. I'll get to that. But if you eventually came back to Maryland, but you went across the river to Fairfax.
I did.
Opportunity?
It was. I when I graduated from the University of Maryland, I applied to every police department in the Baltimore and the Washington, D.C. region. And when I was actually going through the process for a number of different police departments, and Fairfax County just happened to hire me first. They called me and offered me a job, and I said okay. And I actually had never been to Fairfax before I went there to take the test, but made a 27-year detour to Northern Virginia.
That's incredible, but I guess your Virginia experience did you a lot more good in Maryland than you realized at the time. But
well, I did okay.
You were a cop then.
I was
on the beat.
I was, and spent a lot of time getting to know the folks in the community over in different areas in Fairfax. I've worked almost every district station in the county, and then was able to come up through the ranks, and in 1998 was appointed the police chief there.
That's incredible. What a career. That's in Northern Virginia, of course. And you then knew all the other jurisdictions and so forth, but what made you decide to go to Montgomery County? I think it was just an opportunity. I mean, I was eligible to retire from Fairfax after I had 29 years service credit, and so I loved the D.C. area, and I was working with Chuck Ramsey, and a lot of folks that people would certainly recognize their names, and so I had no desire to leave this area. That's where my family was. My parents were here, and it's your home.
It was and is, and so. I thought, gee, I can go to another job that I would enjoy, and only have to move 20 minutes away from where I was living. So it worked out very nicely. Well,
the thing that I'm so pleased about is you finished your school while you were a policeman, correct?
I actually, it was about simultaneous that I graduated from University of Maryland and actually spent, Ocean City, Maryland hires these extra kids for summer cops.
We call them rent-a-cop.
Yes, well, that's what I was. And I'm not sure how much I learned about being a professional police officer, but what I did learn being a summer cop in Ocean City was that I loved this job. I loved being a police officer. It was the right career for me.
Well, that's wonderful, Tom, that you're so happy in what you're doing. But, I've used this before, and I'll say it to your face. If I wanted to hire a police chief, I would call Central Casting in Hollywood, and they'd send me Tom Manger.
Yeah, well.
Would you agree to that, Janice? I mean, you are the epitome of a police chief.
Well, you
dress the part.
Well, don't we all look the same? We all, I would say we all have dark hair and a mustache, but that would let out all the women that are in this job. But my hair is no longer dark, so I can't use that stereotype either.
Tom, your image has been made, and so you're set for life, which is very important. So you then moving across the river. One of the people I remember down on US 1, a lot of policemen would come through the place, Doran's Garage or something like that, and had a motel down there. And they finally had to sell out because the urban sprawl got them on US 1 finally. You probably have noticed what's happened.
I have. I remember when I started back in the mid-'70s and what Route 1 looked like, below Alexandria, very different than what it looks like today.
Ibla Valley.
Yeah. But just some of the bars and I use that term loosely, that were thriving down there then are long gone.
I can see, and now that I was just reading today, there's another area that are planned as they get planned housing. They're taking over another area in Northern Virginia. Of course, you've seen that when you moved across the river. The changes that you've experienced in Montgomery County have been fantastic. They have.
When we moved here in 1968 and moved to what is now considered, downtown Silver Spring. What they've done in Silver Spring is just unbelievable and just amazing. And it's a great place to live, work, go to, for entertainment. And I remember when I first moved here and worked at had a job when I was in high school at the Suburban Record newspaper. And
I remember
on Dixon Avenue, which doesn't that section of Dixon Avenue doesn't even exist anymore because the Discovery Building headquarters is right on top of it. And but I remember I was in Silver Spring all the time, and it is so different and so developed and such a huge attraction today. And when I was in high school, you could see that it was probably, I didn't know it at the time, but it was probably sort of on the decline a little bit.
Were you in high school in Montgomery County?
I did. I went to Montgomery Blair High School.
Oh, yeah. It used to be Blair, and then in later years, when I grew up, it was Blair, and then they added to Montgomery because that was important. But you've seen so many, 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 many changes, and I want to talk to you about that, but we're going to take a break right here, Tom, and get a deep breath. But you're a fountain of information.
Technology Truths, brought to you by Geico.
Technology Truths.
Truth. You have 14 login passwords, and you can't remember any of them.
Doug 1. Doug 2. Doug is awesome. Doug is awesome 1, 2, 3.
Truth. It's so easy to switch and save on car insurance at geico.com.
Doug is super cool &% exclamation point 1985. Knew it.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
This is Sonny Jurgensen. Got a confession to make. I let my wife drag me to one of those Mike Collins estate planning seminars. Like I don't have enough on my plate with a certain football team. Actually, it wasn't too bad. In fact, we both learned a whole lot about how to protect our kids and grandkids down the road and to take care of ourselves right now. So if you get one of Mike's invitations in the mail, go. I'm glad I did. Get all the information and register online at MikeCollins.com. That's MikeCollins.com.
You're listening to Our Town with Andy Ockershausen. Brought to you by Best Bark Communications.
This is Andy Ockershausen. This is Our Town. And Tom, if I said Manger, I'm wrong. It's Manger, and I apologize for that.
Correct.
But it happens all the time, as you say.
It does. I get it all the time.
It's not intentional. But looking at your career, once you're a policeman, is incredible. The work you've done with the National Academy and the Leadership School, and you've been to Richmond, and you furthered your education as a policeman.
I have. The nice thing is that I've had a lot of opportunities. One of the best training venues I've ever gone to, and it's going to sound sort of, I don't know what it sounds like, but I was able to go to the John F. Kennedy School at Harvard, and I'm telling you, that was an amazing experience.
Wonderful library, isn't it?
It is, but the instructors, we were instructed by Harvard professors, and I was just in awe of how they taught, how they could take something that I thought that I knew a little bit about and would learn that, boy, I don't know anything about it. And I hope I left there, a better cop, a better police chief. But I've had some great opportunities in terms of training and education.
I can relate to your Harvard. I had the experience of Harvard in the summer of 1968 by going to school up there in the summer. And finding we were with professors, as you point out, we could never have afforded them, but it was all under the umbrella of the Broadcasters Association. Just my experience of being at Harvard was incredible. I learned a lot, but just to be to Cambridge and see it was a fabulous,
Yeah,
fabulous
it's
thing.
an amazing place.
And that's great for you, and you must have had a lot of fellow officers with you. And what happened at the University of Richmond?
That was a senior executive school, and the interesting thing was at all these places is that you're able to work with folks that aren't just police chiefs. I mean, they have folks that are heading up all kinds of government services and businesses and that sort of thing. So you're with leaders from a lot of different fields, and I think that some of the lessons you can learn from speaking with those folks is very valuable.
Tom, you're 1,000% right. You get other people that do other things but have the same desire in management. I've read if you're a good manager, you can manage anything, but you got to first to learn it. And that's where you do it at Harvard.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that myself. I often tell my wife that, someday when I want to do something different, and that I said, I think maybe I could go run a grocery store. I said I just have to learn the grocery end of it. But in terms of people and personnel issues and all of those kinds of things, I think a lot of the skills that people who are leaders or heads of organizations, if they're doing their job correctly, they can bring those skills and accomplish a lot of things.
All the great leaders feel that way, and most of them prove it. Well, Tom, tell me about you. Your family still here? Your wife? You mentioned you're married. Do you all live obviously in Montgomery County?
We do. We live in Montgomery County, and I've got two teenagers, two high schoolers. So that keeps me busy. Proud of my children. I mean, they're both good students.
I bet they don't go to Blair.
They don't, but that's only because we don't live in Silver Spring.
Okay.
But they're both active in a lot of different things, and I'm glad they're enjoying their high school experience, which I'm happy
That's the
about.
best time of your life. I think it's better than college and better than anything, high school.
Yeah.
For some reason, well, you're changing and making a lot of changes. So, Tom, you've seen all the changes in Silver Spring, obviously, but it's happened all over the county, of course, everything. Now, Upper County is people up there now. And I remember driving through the northern part of Montgomery County, and there were cows and barns. Now they're people.
We still have cows and barns, but there's a fewer of them. I mean, we have places like Clarksburg and Germantown that have just really exploded, and they're delightful places. They have so much to offer, and the challenge for the county is to make sure that we have the infrastructure, that make sure we have all the things that we can continue to make sure that everybody enjoys the kind of quality of life that we want them to.
Well, that's your expanding force, of course, because you're policing a lot bigger area than you originally when you came into Montgomery County. I mean, it's all happened up there north now. I mean, people. White's Ferry, I think, of places that you couldn't go to. It was like an all-day sucker to go there. But now it's all right close, and it's just happened suddenly.
Yeah, and that's, there are certain things that have been around in Montgomery County. You mentioned White's Ferry, but there's certain things that have been around in Montgomery County for a long time and are still thriving. But everything just seems to look different now because there's been so much development and so many communities have sprung up, and it's that certainly speaks well for the county, but it's different, that's for sure.
Well, but different is not strange. Different is a lot better. I can see it, and I can recall going to Richard Montgomery High School. From my high school, I went in Washington at Eastern High. To get there was like an all-day trip. We're going to Rockville. God, we better take our lunch or something. We don't know what's happening out there. Now people don't even think about it. I don't even think it exists anymore.
Well, it'll take you a while to get up Rockville Pike, but you can do it in less than a day.
That's right. And Veers Mill Road was almost a dirt road. That was a long time ago. Well, Tom, I want to talk to you about the police work in Montgomery County, but we're going to take another break here now. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Charles Mann. For athletes like me, playing every down in a pro game is like getting in a car accident. After years of playing football in Washington, my body is broken. I've had countless surgeries and joint replacements. I've been looking for a non-surgical treatment since I ended my career. I heard a radio ad for a seminar about alternative treatment. It's called regenerative medicine, which stimulates your own body to heal and repair itself. No surgery, no more pain. That got my attention. I went to the seminar to learn firsthand all about it. Now you too can benefit and receive this treatment. This is the same procedure that pro athletes use to quickly and effectively recover from injury. If you're looking to eliminate your pain and arthritis, or if you thought surgery was your only option, take the first step like I did. Call 410-787-7250. Register for the next seminar and learn more about this breakthrough procedure. Seating is limited. Register now by calling 410-787-7250 and start living life again.
Hi, Tony Sybil here from Tony and Joe's and Nick's Riverside Grill at Georgetown's Washington Harbor. We're here to talk to you today about our fabulous Thanksgiving dinner. Turkey, ham, mashed potatoes, clams, and oysters, desserts. Got to come celebrate the holidays with us at Tony and Joe's. We can accommodate parties between 10 and 200 people. So now it's time to call 202-944-4545 to make your reservations.
You're listening to Our Town with Andy Ockershausen.
This is Andy Ockershausen, and I'm having a wonderful conversation with Tom Manger, who's Chief of Police of Montgomery County. But he has a great, great background because he was Chief of Police of Fairfax. When you think about it, the two most prominent counties in the greater Washington area, Tom's had experience with both of them. And he has won so many awards, but one of them, the Silver Medal of Valor of Fairfax County Human Rights Commission, and the NAACP Community Service Leadership Award. You're an award winner, Tom.
Well, I think if you stick around long enough, people want to be nice to you. But no, it's been very humbling. A lot of the awards, and it's interesting that probably the one of the highlights of my career was winning the Silver Medal of Valor in Fairfax. And these kinds of things, you ask any cop, and they'll tell you these kinds of things happen when you least expect it. I mean, when I was, this was a case where we got a call. It was probably 2:00 in the morning at a house in the Falls Church area where someone had who worked in a lab had access to anthrax, and they were threatening the folks in the house with this anthrax, and was evidently blowing powder on them or something and telling them they were all going to die. So they called the police, and we were told, and the fire department got dispatched as well. And the fire department said, "Look, it's not safe to go in there. Any contact with this, could be."
Were you a uniformed officer at the time?
I was, yes, and so I was actually a supervisor at the time, and we got down there. And we went. It was a cul-de-sac, and it was pretty chaotic on the street there, and there were people out screaming and hollering, begging for an ambulance to help them, and the fire rescue was waiting for us to stabilize the situation. So I looked at three other cops, and I said, "Listen," I said, I don't know what this is, or I said, but if this guy does have anthrax, that's bad. And he had come out on the front lawn and was screaming and hollering that he was going to use this. And so we so the four of us just rushed the guy and got him into custody. And as we were putting him in handcuffs, he looked up at me and he says, "You're going to die now." And I just sort of shook my head, but so he goes to jail. Everybody is decontaminated, and the four of us, myself and the other cops, were being held in a parking lot at Fairfax Hospital. And they said, "Well, we can't bring you into the hospital because if you are contaminated, we can't bring you into the hospital. So we're gonna, we'll send somebody out to check on you and to treat you." And look, the upshot of the story was that it turned out it was not anthrax, although this guy worked in a lab up in I think it was Fort Meade. But anyway, they gave me an award for that, which was an award from the Chamber of Commerce, which was very nice. And
absolutely recognition, absolutely, Tom. I mean that's a scary thing, anthrax, and the whole idea of killing people. And obviously the guy was deranged, or he wouldn't have been out in the middle of the street.
Yeah, he had some issues, that's for sure.
I believe it.
Chief, you have such a fine demeanor. You have a great kindness about you and a great personality. And I imagine that's one of the skills that is good for a negotiator. You're probably a very good negotiator.
Well, I would check with my children on that, and they would probably not agree. But I will tell you that I think one of the things that, and I tell this to the community all the time, that when we hire cops, we're looking for people that are good communicators and have a spirit for public service. I will tell you that any empathy or compassion that I have is I got from my parents, and I credit my mom for a lot of the way I am and the way I approach situations and the way I approach people.
So glad to hear you say your mom, not your dad.
Well,
your
no,
mom's a wonderful woman.
My dad gave me plenty of good things as well, but my mother's the one that really shaped my personality.
Tom, one of the things that's impressed me many, many, many hours when I said to you, when I talked to Tom about why are you still wearing your boards on your uniform as Eagles? That's a rank of a colonel, but everybody else I know around town in law enforcement, they're wearing 4 stars.
They are.
They got more medals than General Patton.
Yeah.
And I can't understand. But your answer, I'll never forget, was we're traditional, and I'm traditional, and these Eagles are my tradition.
This if you look at I'm I think the 16th police chief in Montgomery, in the history of the Montgomery County Police.
I go back to Bernie Crook. I know him well.
And if you look at the photo of all of the previous police chiefs, with the exception of one, they all had the Eagles. And so I just thought that was the tradition of the department. And I don't know if you remember the rest of the answer that I gave you, and that I know a lot of chiefs have stars and they different things. But there's only one badge that says chief on it, and that's the one I got.
And you got it.
Yeah.
Well, even the fire chief now is wearing 4 stars. I mean, this goes way back. It just, to me, it didn't make sense. But next thing you'll have 5 stars and be like Eisenhower. But Tom, that was my wife, Janice Ockershausen, who's really responsible for this program. And Janice has been working very closely with the problem with the opioid and the damage it's done to our society. And I'd like Janice to ask you some questions. She knows more than I do.
Yeah, when we were off mic, I was just wondering what the situation was for Montgomery County with the opioid crisis. I work with a client, DisposeRx, who actually is a product where it's a powder. You dump it into the vial with the leftover opioids. You shake it up and it becomes a goo, which you can throw away, right. And it's biodegradable. But my point is, you've got to see this on a daily basis. You've got to live it and breathe it and see it, the destruction that it's causing. It must be horrible to be on the front line like that and see this tragedy. This
is one of the biggest crises in our country today, opioid addiction. And if you look at the numbers of people who are dying from opioid overdose, it's growing every year for the past several years. Same in Montgomery County. We had more deaths from opioid overdoses than we had from car crashes, from homicides, from even suicides. And so it is a huge issue. Every day, my cops are responding to overdoses. My cops have been trained with Narcan, so they're able. Actually, they have, and not only my cops, but fire rescue has Narcan as well. Now, Narcan has been given to family members who know that they have someone who's addicted in their family. So it's great that the Narcan's out there because it is saving lives. So the next step is that we have to educate folks and we have to treat the addiction issues that we're dealing with. This is not hey, lock everybody up, for possession of illegal drugs. That doesn't help anything. That incarceration is not going to help an addict. They need treatment.
In this situation that I'm dealing with my client, I will tell you that I found out that 70% of all opioid addictions begin in the home medicine cabinet. And I know you all just had a Take Back Day. So it's an incredible opportunity, though, for someone to kind of grab it while it's still, before it becomes a problem and sets the world on fire as far as the addiction itself. Not having the temptation around for somebody they say realtors go into homes, they steal the opioids because they're less expensive, and then of course that turns into heroin. So I'm just saying that I appreciate everything you're doing to stop the opioid crisis in our country. You're on the front line, and it's an incredible thing that you all do on a daily basis to deal with this crisis.
Well, it is a crisis, and I think that just what you described in terms of some of the ways that people first, get a hold of this. That's all part of education, and folks that have legally been prescribed this drug need to keep it secure and not just keep it in the medicine cabinet. And when they're done, they need to destroy it. I mean, so all the things you just talked about are part of the education process.
So, Tom, one of the things that Janice has been involved in has opened my eyes up to it, and you said it about opioids, but I'm going to ask you if you agree with me. And because it lives in the city of Washington, you know what's happening with our gun violence this year. More deaths than all of last year already. It's not going to be solved by the police department. That's my estimation, and I preach it all the time. This is a solution that's got to come from the citizens. You can't. A policeman cannot stop gun violence. Usually it's after the fact. But a homeowner can, a mother and father can, a brother and sister can take guns away from people. I'm convinced of that.
It's I think up to elected officials, it's up to community members, and the police do play a role in this as well. But nobody can solve this by themselves. It's going to take a concerted effort. And when you see something like we saw in Pittsburgh last week, you just and that becomes, oh well, there's another one, and that becomes sort of normalized. That just shows you the situation we're in, and we really have to do, I think, more as a community, more as a police department, more in terms of elected officials, legislatively, to do what needs to be done to reduce gun violence.
But Tom, because what you say is so true. What is the next one? That's what we're waiting for, the next shooting, whenever it comes up. And I'm so upset with the city because I know what's happening in Washington. The death rate is incredible, and it's all handguns, it's all shooting, and now I understand they got posses running around the city of Washington looking for a target. I think they're going to be running out of target. I hope they don't come to Montgomery County.
Well,
or Prince George's County. Yeah. They felt it too out there. You haven't had that much violence as PG has had it.
No, I mean, I think that that everybody in the D.C. region has seen an uptick.
It's our town.
I mean, we certainly have a fair number of non-fatal shootings. We're blessed that for a number of reasons our homicide numbers are typically low, but we're still getting 40, 50, 60 shootings a year, and we're just blessed that either people aren't very good in terms of aiming, or that the medical service, I mean the fire rescue and ambulances are so good and are saving lives as well. So, but we still have to address the root causes of violence, and that's a bigger issue. Again, a bigger issue than just the police.
That much bigger. Well, you must have left a big imprint. I see. I don't know when Montgomery does this game, but Fairfax has that search and rescue team. Every time there's a national disaster, those guys pony up and get on an airplane and go somewhere.
Montgomery County has the same thing. I actually, during Hurricane Katrina, we sent folks down to New Orleans, and they asked, because of the situation down there, they asked for a contingent of police officers to go to provide security for the work that was being done down there. And I flew down and spent some time down there just making sure my cops were okay and making sure that we were able to provide the help that folks needed.
I'm sure those people in New Orleans love that and love to see them and love everything they show up at. I get more kick out of hearing about the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue saving people in the Potomac River that still don't realize that Great Falls are dangerous.
Yeah, the Potomac River is such a beautiful, such a beautiful thing to look at. But I'm telling you, underneath the top of that water, it's dangerous.
It is, and it happens every year, not just in the summer. Tom, you just epitomized to me a good cop, and you live it and breathe it, and Montgomery County is so fortunate to have you. It's Fairfax's loss, incidentally. Wait till I tell them that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And thank you for being with us, Tom. It's been just great. And I want to thank Janice for her interviews and her good questions. But we are very deeply involved with this opioid problem and want to continue to do everything we can to bring it to the light. So thank you, Tom Manger, Chief of Police of Montgomery County. This is Our Town. This is Andy Ockershausen.
You've been listening to Our Town Season 4, presented by Geico, our hometown favorite, with your host, Andy Ockershausen. New Our Town episodes are released each Tuesday and Thursday. Drop us a line with your comments or suggestions. See us on Facebook or visit our website at ourtowndc.com. Our special thanks to Ken Hunter, our technical director, and WMAL Radio in Washington, D.C. And thanks to Geico. 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance.